A method of producing a large volume of fire in a short period of time.
Your enemy's in front of you, get him!
These handheld killers were to become a key infantry weapon in the Second World War. The submachine gun worked on the principle that the more lead you loose off, the greater your chance of killing. The German MP-40 was both compact and lethal.
It's got quite a limited range, being just a pistol round, but at close range it can be quite devastating. Up to 20 yards, this would probably penetrate 2 people. Go through one person and through a second person. So it's got quite a penetrative power.
But one submachine gun towers over the rest of the family. One of the earliest models, it combined the rugged menace of the Wild West with the glamour of Hollywood. Tommy gun, take a bow.
That's a Thompson M1A1 submachine gun.
John Hilliker is a sheriff's deputy and former Special Forces operative. He's also a massive fan of the iconic Thompson.
Given the option, and I have the option as a sheriff's deputy, whether I would carry an M16 or carry this Thompson. And as you can see, I carry the Thompson. That's what rides in my squad car with me. If you're talking about having a close quarters combat situation, I think this is superior to most any firearm on the market now.
The reason for the popularity of the Thompson was simple. It packed extra punch.
Unlike European submachine guns, which tend to fire 9mm rounds, the Thompson fired the very popular American .45 ACP round, which is a great big round. The Tommy gun was firing a round that could knock people over. And when you were being hit potentially by 20, 30 rounds of this stuff, you knew you were being cut to pieces.
Gun designer General John Thompson discovered that a large, slow-moving bullet could do a lot more damage than a round moving much faster.
There were a lot of experiments done by Thompson, the same man who made this, in 1904.
Thompson figured that the only way to get reliable data on body damage would be to test on real flesh. So he got some steers from the local slaughterhouse.
Basically what they came out with was that to be an effective man stopper, if you like, velocity didn't matter. A big bullet, even if it is going slow, is much more effective than a small bullet going much faster. And so this is, in effect, a very good round of ammunition.
The Thompson fired an awesome 800 rounds per minute. It packed a 50-bullet or 100-bullet magazine.
You therefore have a huge firepower, very effective at upsetting your opposition.
All right, I'll show you how the magazine goes in. Extended thumb off of the magazine, like this. Give it a couple of good taps to make sure it's in place. All right, you gentlemen have placed up some very aggressive lamps over there for me. So rather than letting them attack us, I guess we should go see if we can handle them. In an urban environment, this is a very comfortable gun to either pull to your shoulder or to actually fire from the hip. And once you've done it a few times, you can get very good with it.
The Thompson was a whole new firearm flavor, and owners dig the taste. Law enforcement officers liked the hard-hitting bullets, and gangsters liked its bad boy rep.
The Tommy gun became the sort of thing which we associate with the gangsters of the 1930s. It became something of a status symbol. I mean, not simply good for sorting out your opponent across a bar or in a car in the street outside, but also went with the fedora and the cigar. Status weapon too.
The Thompson submachine gun was the weapon used during the St. Valentine's Day massacre, and for a gangster it meant it was a relatively small weapon, giving him a high volume of fire and something you could conceal. It fits inside a violin case.
But not every gangster wanted the Thompson. First fielded in February 1918, the larger, heavier Browning automatic rifle packed a bigger bullet and a bigger punch than the Thompson.
The Browning automatic rifle fires a rifle round, a much bigger, much heavier round, even than the .45 ACP round that the Tommy gun fires.
Now this is a completely different kettle of fish. It has got a huge amount of power. Clyde Barrow of Bonnie and Clyde fame used one of these, and he sawed off the barrel to shorten it very slightly. At close range, with or without the 6 inches of barrel, the effect of this on a person would be absolutely devastating.
A career criminal with a long rap sheet, Clyde often found himself going up against Thompson-packing police officers. On more than one occasion, he turned the tables with the superior power of his BAR. The penetrating power of these weapons meant there was nowhere left to hide.
If you were hiding behind a car, you wouldn't have to wait until they popped their head up to shoot them. You just would shoot them through the car. It will go through both sides of the car very easily. This is a frightening weapon.
Despite the rise of the submachine gun family and weapons like the Browning, rapid fire was still evolving. By World War II, a new branch on the family tree had taken root.
One of the things that people are groping for in the early part of the 20th century is a machine gun that's light enough to be carried by a single infantryman, but which can still suppress by having a huge volume of ammunition and a very high rate of fire.
The evolution of lighter metals and stamped parts made this dream a reality. A new wave of portable machine guns tumbled off production lines. All the major powers bought into the technology, but in World War II, 2 weapons outgunned the rest: the German MG-34 and its update, the .42. Belt-fed, these weapons guzzled ammo, easily outgunning smaller capacity, magazine-based rivals.
And the MG-42, it combines lightness and high rate of fire because it can take a feed off of a belt.
Which meant that they could produce this stunning volume of fire.
The MG-42 is perhaps the most celebrated machine gun ever. It fired at 1,500 rounds a minute. So when this thing goes off, it doesn't sound like a machine gun. It sounds like you take a big piece of canvas and tear it.
If you were a British or American soldier with your magazine-fed machine gun taking on an MG-42, you always had the feeling that somehow it was putting down a volume of fire that you simply couldn't cope with.
June 6, 1944, D-Day. American forces land on Omaha Beach in Normandy. German troops armed with MG-42s look down onto the beachhead, unleashing a tsunami of lead. Despite the Germans being massively outnumbered, the fate of the landing hung in the balance all day. One single German gunner fired over 12,000 rounds that morning, killing hundreds of American soldiers.
The great advantage that any German unit had in the Second World War, once they had the MG-42, was just simply greater firepower. No matter how many Bren guns or